daily learning of the book of Tehilim. We are up to chapter 9 in the book of Psalms. Chapter 9 is one of the most mysterious psalms written. Usually King David starts off the psalm with an introduction of the context in which it was said and where it was meant to be said loudly. And the beginning of chapter 9 really mystifies commentaries in terms of what it is discussing. So the chapter begins with the word lamnatzeach, which means a conductor, a musical conductor, which means this chapter was said in the temple in a musical context when the services in the temple in Jerusalem were being held. And so King David says, Lamnatzeach, it was said by the musical group, by the conductor, Lamnatzeach almut laben mizmor LaDavid. This is a psalm for David, and he says, Lamnatzeach almut laben. Now, the word mut laben is a very difficult one. Some suggest it's talking about David's son, Avshalom, who rebelled against him. And so they say that this is talking about when Avshalom rebelled and died. But Rashi, one of the greatest commentaries, suggests that that's impossible, and he therefore says it's talking about a king named Laben, and he says that this following chapter is talking about the battle with the Amalekites, which, as we see in the book of Exodus, is a war that's ongoing between the Jewish people and the nation of Amalek, so much so that it says that God takes us personally and takes a side in this war. And so this is speaking about the ultimate defeat of Amalek. And so he continues and he says, Mizmor LaDavid, he says, often King David since he had such tremendous faith in God, since King David had so much trust in God, he would say something as if it already happened. So he says something, he'll say thank you to God, even though something never even took place yet. King David is going to say, well, God, thank you for that, as if it had already taken place. So that's what we're talking about here. Verse 2, Odeh Hashem b'chol libi. I will thank God with all of my heart. Asapa kol niflotecha. I will share and tell all of your glorious deeds. And that's an important principle that comes up throughout the book of Tehilim, Psalms, which is not only is it important to have faith, but it's important also to share the stories of miracles and important things that happen to you. I will share with others. I will tell them your praise and all the good things that you have done. He continues, verse 3, I will rejoice and take great pride in you. I will sing your name as the supreme one, meaning you, God, are the supreme God. As my enemies return and withdraw and retreat, they will stumble and will be lost before you. So King David is speaking about how God is there with him and standing with him. You, God, have done my justice and my rightfulness. You sat like a judge on a throne, on a chair of justice. So God is saying, King David is saying, God, you have stood like a just judge. He says, you have spoken out against these nations. You have annihilated a wicked one, and a wicked one here being the nation of Amalek. Your name, their name, you have completely annihilated it forever and ever. And of course, King David is saying that because even though it didn't happen yet, he is always so confident in God that it is something that he is certain will take place, and he'll sort of retroactively thank God for something that didn't even happen yet. Now we come to a very, very famous verse. He says, the enemy, once this enemy is destroyed, then swords will be forever irrelevant, unnecessary. And the cities that this enemy has attacked have been completely obliterated. And so King David is explaining why this enemy of Amalek is such a wicked enemy, why this enemy is such an enemy that God needed to combat, because this enemy was a ruthless one that would completely destroy certain cities. V'Hashem Leolam yeshev. God, unlike this enemy who is has a sharp rise and a sharp decline, God is forever and ever. V'Hashem leolam yeshev konen lamishpat kiso, and He will establish His seat in justice. Verse 9 is actually recited on Rosh Hashanah, interestingly, before the blowing of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. This verse is cited. V'yishpot tevel b'tzedek leumim v'meisharim, and God will try the entire world in justice, and He will judge nations in a forthright way. It's very interesting because the reason we recite this on Rosh Hashanah is that Rosh Hashanah is ultimately the ultimate day of justice. It's the day that God judges everyone. So we say, God will judge nations in justice, and He will judge peoples in a forthright way. And God will be a source of strength for the impoverished, and He will be there with you even in times of trouble. Now again, a very, very famous verse. Those who trust you will be able to, those who know your name will have faith in you, because you, God, do not abandon and do not leave those who seek you. Verse 12, Zamru la Hashem Yoshev Tzion, sing to God who sits in Zion, in Jerusalem. Hagidu ba'amim alilotav. And like we said before, King David believes that if you see something miraculous, you ought to share it. You ought to spread that story. He he'll judge people with justice. Next is verse 13, is also a pretty famous verse. It is recited in the prayers on Shabbat. Shabbat, before the afternoon prayer of Musaf, well, not exactly afternoon, sort of midday prayer of Musaf, we say this verse when remembering all those who were killed because of their faith in God. Ki doresh damim otam zachar. He who ultimately seeks revenge for those who were killed unjustly will remember them. And that's a very important principle, because David is speaking here about the nation of Amalek from the Edomites. And so that nation killed many, many Jews just because of their faith. And so King David says, sometimes you won't see justice done immediately. Sometimes things take time. So he says, the person who, the one who seeks out their blood will remember them. He has not forgotten the outcry of the humble. And he says, God, please grace me from my enemies. You, God, uplift me from the gates and entry of death. So that I tell all your praise in the gates of Zion. I will be happy in your salvation. Verse 16. So the nations who are seeking to destroy us will end up stumbling into the very same nets that they have spread out. Noda Hashem mishpat asa. God is famous through justice. God is famous when there is justice done, which is an argument that King David invokes often. He says, God, if you want to be known, you have to do justice. You have to let those who are righteous be rewarded and those who are wicked be punished. We're in chapter 9, verse 17. With the work of his hand, he makes the wicked stumble. Higayon sela, and that is his way of conduct. Verse 18. Yashuvu Roshaim leshola. The wicked, who may seem like they're prospering, who may seem like they're doing really well, will ultimately be go to the there's no real great word for it in Hebrew or in English. Sheol means an abyss. In I guess non-Jewish terms, people sometimes refer to it as hell, but it's its own thing. So the wicked who are trying to pursue the righteous are going to go to this Sheol. Sometimes it seems like the poor person, the weak person is forgotten, but that will not stay that way forever. Sometimes it seems like the poor's hope is lost forever and ever. He says, Kuma Hashem al yaoz enosh. God, please, I beg you, don't wait in executing justice Don't wait in executing justice, speaking specifically of the nation of Amalek. Yishaftu goyim al panecha. Let these nations that are committing so many atrocities be judged. Sima shita Hashem mora lahim. God, give them what they call the fear of God. Put the fear of God in their heart. Yedu goyim enosh masela. Let those who are pursuing others, are persecuting others because of their faith in you, God, let them know that they are just human. And therefore, if King David says, if you, God, will properly reprimand and punish those who are abusing others, then more people will know that you are the true God. And that is chapter 9. God willing, tomorrow we will continue with chapter 10. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who joined us. Very much appreciated. Hope we can see you tomorrow, and thank you so much.